Hello readers and welcome back to my channel. Thank you for joining me for another video. If you've not come across my channel before, then I'm Katie Ward, a self-published author. My debut novel, The Pretender, became a top 30 YA bestseller on Amazon, and I've also contributed to the first ever Writers and Artists Guide to Self-Publishing, printed by Bloomsbury Press in March 2020. In this video today, I want to talk to you about the myths that I've come across as a self-published author that claim to make me a better writer if I do them. I really find these funny because I don't do any of them, to be honest with you. I don't fit into any of these brackets, and I will explain to you why they don't make a great writer. The first myth I'm going to bring you today is maybe one of the most well-known myths in author history. It's the one that you've probably heard time and time again. I know that I have. And that myth is that good writers find writing easy. Now this makes me laugh because I think actually if you go through history, you'll find that writing is not easy. It's anything but easy. You might have a few people that knock out books right, left and centre, like Stephen King. He might find it easy, but I dare say when he started, he didn't find it easy. And from my personal experience, I know that I can sit for a day at my computer and not even finish one chapter, because maybe it's a case of inspiration isn't high, maybe it's I'm stuck on what I need to do with a character, or maybe it's a case that every single thing that I write just sounds terrible. It could be a sign that you're just really frazzled. Maybe you've been trying too hard, maybe life outside your writing is getting in the way. From my personal experience, writing is not easy. It's really hard sometimes to be able to construe the idea in your head onto paper in a way that actually does it justice. When I'm creating my pages, I'm not creating just text, I'm creating a scene, if you like. So, you know, if my characters are in a coffee shop, I'm going to be visualizing or helping you visualize what that coffee shop looks like, what smells like, what the mother on the table next door is doing with her daughter. You know, there's all of these different elements that come into it. It doesn't come naturally. It takes a lot of thought. It takes a lot of going back and forward. And if people band around about how amazing authors find it so easy, then I think that it's really easy to look at yourself and think, well, I must be terrible. And I think that's where this myth is really unhelpful, because it makes a really difficult process make you feel like you're doing it wrong, when actually you're doing it completely right. The second myth is one that I can attest is categorically false, and that is that a debut novel is the writer's first novel. And for me, that obviously is incorrect. My very first novel that I ever wrote was called Red Roses, which is in fact going to be my second novel. My debut novel, The Pretender, was in fact the second novel that I wrote, but it was the first released. And that was for a very simple reason. Red Roses is a completely original piece that I came up with when I was 20 years old, and I have nursed it for well over 10 years now. And the reason I couldn't get that right was because I did not know what I needed to get right. And I got tired of writing Red Roses. I had enough, and I just was trying again and again and again, and it wasn't working. I had a vision in my head of what I wanted, and whatever I did would not translate onto the page. So I decided to park Red Roses and to write The Pretender. Now, The Pretender was an adaptation of one of my favourite childhood novels, The Prince and the Pauper. This made the process a lot easier because I wasn't coming up with a brand new novel like I was with Red Roses. I was adapting an already written novel. So all I had to do was kind of bring it into the modern age and to kind of change the story. It was a lot easier than what I was trying to do with Red Roses. And the point is that I had that book done and dusted in a year and a half. I mean, a fraction of the time that it took for Red Roses. And then I obviously released that because it seemed to me like a really good first book to put out there to people to discover me as an author. So by doing that, I then learned such valuable insights into the publishing process, the writing process, and what I need to do to create a publishable book, that I now have been able to go back to Red Roses and know exactly what I need to do in order to make that book where I need it to go. And I am now creating that vision that I've held in my head for all these years, and I'm putting it onto the page. But before, I couldn't have done that because I didn't have the understanding, I didn't have the knowledge, I didn't have the experience that the Pretender gave me. And if I had kept on trying and trying and trying with Red Roses, I would never have succeeded. The best thing I ever did was to shelve Red Roses for that period of time, concentrate on something else, learn the lessons, and then bring that to Red Roses, because that is a much more complex book for me to write than The Pretender was. So as strange as it sounds, it is quite usual within the business for a debut novel to actually be the author's second book that's written. The second myth is one that actually really does irritate me quite a lot, and it's one that I hear all the time, and I honestly wonder if it's true, because maybe it is true for some people, but it is certainly not true for me. And that's that writers have to always write every single day, like some kind of innate part of them can't survive without writing. Hands up, I can totally survive without writing. I could go a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, never writing a word, and I'd be as happy as Larry. So I don't write every single day. And I don't think, from my perspective, that it would help me to try and write every single day. I have been at my desk trying to write 7 chapters in a day and barely getting through one. And I have spent 4, 5, 6, 7 hours sat there writing the same sentence back and forth, and I've tried to force it. And do you know what happened with that forced writing? Is in about 3 days' time, I went back and deleted everything. And that's what taught me a really valuable lesson, is that I can sit there and waste hours upon hours upon hours trying to force myself to write. Or I could go away, leave it, maybe watch a movie, maybe don't do any writing, maybe just take a break from everything that I need to do, marketing, writing, day job, everything, and take some time for myself to just recoup myself and then go back to it. And I find, for me personally, that that is how I overcome any blocks that I have. Writer's block for me is not an inability to write. It's a sign for me that my body is too tired to write. My mind just can't play this game anymore because it's been doing too much. I've been pushing it too hard. And actually it needs some downtime to switch off and then to come back at it when I've had that downtime. And usually at that point, I'm able to write so much better. And when it comes to finishing my books, with The Pretender and with Red Roses, I have always ended them exactly the same way, in that I have sat there for 12 hours over a 3-day period, and I have just finished it, and I have written about 10 chapters at once, straight away. And that is how I always finish my book. It's like a sprint at the end, and it works really well, but only when I'm in the correct frame of mind to do it. Because once I'm in that frame of mind, I know that I can just keep going. But on the other side, I also know that when there's the days when I think maybe this will be the day that I'm going to write 10 chapters and I can barely write one, I know that I just need to take a break and to leave my writing and think that I'm going to go back to it another day. And sometimes I do take a week off, and sometimes I take 2 weeks off. So I don't believe as an author you need to write every single day. I don't think that it helps you to write every single day. Maybe there are authors out there that it does really help, but for me personally, it's a balance between having writing time and having downtime, because I just keep filling my day up with extra things to do, and there comes a time when I need to take a break and actually remember that I need some time to myself too. My last myth is one that's actually pretty devaluing for authors, and it's one that I really don't like that much. If it was said to me, I would definitely challenge it. and that is that authors don't write their stories anyway. Their characters write it. We are merely a vessel from which our characters spill out their story, and we diligently type it onto words and then go through the process of bringing it out to our audience. Except that's not how it works at all, because those characters are a figment of my imagination, and I create the scenes that they play out in, and everything that happens to them comes from my imagination, and I make all of the choices. At no point do my characters speak to me about what they want or how they would like this to proceed. I don't hear voices in my head with them telling me what they want, because I create them and what they want, and what they want is pretty much what I decide they want. The world I create for my characters is purely a figment of my imagination. It doesn't exist outside of my imagination. And that's how I like it, because as a writer, I write to create a world that doesn't exist except in the pages of that book, when it really does exist and it's believable and you know the characters and they know you and they speak to you. One of the themes for my writing is that as an author, I try to bring my reader in next to my characters. So you become almost a character in the story yourself. You're observing it, but you're kind of in the thick of it. I do it from a first person perspective. It goes down really well because it brings you in to the story, and that is very much my style and what I like to do with my writing. Everything that I do within those pages is a concept of what I'm trying to achieve for the reader. And I keep the reader firmly in my mind. What's their expectations? What would they want? What you think you want and what you actually want is not the same thing. You know, everyone thinks they want a happy ending, but to be honest, maybe they don't want the happy ending. They want a satisfying ending. It's a very different concept. But, you know, I keep my readers in the forefront of my mind whilst creating my characters and creating their interactions and everything that they do. So to have someone turn around and say that my characters write my story and I purely am a vessel for them to connect with my readers devalues every single aspect of what I do to create my work. And I absolutely will not be standing for that, because I put so much heart and soul into all my books that, you know, I want the credit for it. You know, I love my characters, don't get me wrong. They become very close to me. I call them my babies because, you know, I really connect with them and I kind of end up really, you know, rooting for them. And, you know, I'm writing this story and I kind of get upset when I have to do bad things to my characters. And I feel like a terrible person. That's the kind of ironic thing about it, is you know you have to do it, but you don't really want to do it because you kind of really rooting for this character. But, you know, that is the life of an author. You have to do what you don't want to do because it's right for the story. And readers will love it, even if they kind of hate you for what you're going to do to their favourite characters. And that is why the characters don't write the stories through the authors, because if they did, it would always be happy and nothing would ever happen. Because hey, would you put yourself through in your life what you would read in your favourite books? Seriously, if you were Harry Potter, would you put yourself through any of what he went through? Would you choose that for your life? No. So that is literally why a character would never ever be in charge of its own book. It is an author who places them in these horrendous situations because it makes a good story. And at the end of the day, these books are created for escapism. They're not created for realism. You escape, you get immersed, you lose yourself in those pages. And that's the kind of books that I seek to write. And I write them and I create them and I put them on the pages for my readers. And my characters may be three-dimensional. They may come out and they may resonate with you, but they are my creation. They do not create the narrative. I create the narrative. And I'm very proud of the fact that I am able to do it in a way that makes me very happy and in a way that my readers have really resonated with. So that the characters write themselves is categorically untrue and a little offensive to an author, especially one like myself who puts so much heart and soul into their work. So definitely don't say that to an author, because I don't think it will go down very well. Thank you, readers, for joining me for another video. I hope you've really liked it, and if you have, please do put a comment below so that I know what it is you liked about it. Don't forget to like and subscribe so that you can be kept informed of any other videos that I have coming out. And don't forget to also check out my previous videos. I've got a good few now that I've managed to get up onto this site, so there is lots for you to find out about the self-publishing journey that I'm on, and also what's good about it, what's bad about it. I cover everything on this channel. If you have any suggestions of something you would like me to do, then do let me know. I'm always happy to consider them for future videos. I hope you have a great rest of the day wherever you are in the world. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you and goodbye.